Well, we are approaching that Christmas, New Year, holiday time of year. This is easily my absolute favorite time of year. Where I live, there's a bunch of snow on the ground, and it's a great time. And so I thought it would be fun to show you a really quick tutorial on how to take in this case here, this is a Christmas photo, but any family holiday photo, and just add a little bit something extra to it. Now, this is not my family, but I found this photo online and I thought it'd be a fun image to use. Now, the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Let me show you what I mean. Because there's a lot of negative space here in the top right, I want to minimize as much of that as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and select Edit and then Free Transform. It's also Command T on a Mac or Control T on a PC. Here, let me zoom out a little bit here. And then all I'm going to do is from the top, I'm going to drag up, and then from the bottom, I'll drag down. And really, again, what I'm trying to do is mostly just fill the space with the family. We really don't need that much of this dead space here. We want the family to take the bulk of the composition. So right around there. And so when we're done, click on the check mark over here to commit that transform. And now we've got a little less of that negative space. Now, if we zoom in, you can see that there's a bunch of noise in this photo. It could be because this is simply a low resolution photo. It could be a film photo that was scanned, or it could just be a photo that was taken in low light, which it clearly was at a very high ISO. But regardless, what I want to do is get some noise reduction, and for that we're going to use DeNoise AI. So the way that I like to do that is if I'm in Photoshop, I usually will duplicate the base layer just so that I always have kind of versions. So to do that, I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to go to duplicate layer, and then I'm going to call this DeNoise AI. Now with the DeNoise AI layer selected, I'm going to go to the filter menu item, Topaz Labs, and then select Topaz Denoise AI. And what I want to do first is go to the comparison view here so I can see all four of the models shown. And in this case here, we've got two of the low light. So I'm going to select this quadrant and change that to standard. So now we have standard, clear, low light, and severe noise. Let's go ahead and zoom in. I'll actually use the zoom scroll bar over here and put the focus box here. And of these four, I like severe noise the most, and it's actually applicable because you can argue that this photo does have some severe noise. But what I will do is take this enhanced sharpness slider. I'm going to increase that. I'm going to also increase the remove noise slider. And then I'm going to double click to get the one-up view, and let's zoom to fit again. And so you can see if I click and hold, does a really good job of cleaning that up. Let's go ahead and increase the enhanced sharpness slider some more, and let's zoom in just a little bit to get a little bit of a closer view. You can see here, beautiful job. Here you can see how noisy it is. It actually takes away from some of that edge detail, but we're able to clean that up and still retain the edge detail. So now that we're done, let's click apply to return back to Photoshop. And you can see here that we have our noise reduced layer. We still have our original layer, so no worries there. Now, here's kind of the creative thing. This is just a simple, fun thing that I thought you would enjoy seeing. So I want to add just a little bit more to the photo. And what I'm going to do is add a new image layer. And the way that I'm going to do it is go to File and then Place Embedded. And I've got this bokeh pattern that I found online as well. I'll highlight it and select Place. And then I'm going to resize it so that it covers the whole photo. And so to do that, I'm going to press and hold on the Option or Alt key and drag from the corner here. And you can see now that we are getting the image kind of, you can position it the way you want after the fact, but this looks good here. So now I've got my bokeh layer positioned. You can see it over here, but obviously it's covering the photo. And so one of the really creative ways to blend layers together is by using these blending modes. You can see it's under the layer panel. By default, a new layer will come in with a normal blending mode. And if you click on the dropdown and hover over these different options, you'll see each of these options will determine how the highlighted layer will blend with the layer below it. And there's a whole bunch of things that you can learn about these different blending modes. So just for the sake of time, I know that soft light is the blending mode that I want to use here. So I'm going to click on it, and you can now see the way the layer is blended with the photo layer below it. Now, the first thing that I want to do is just position this bokeh layer again. You know, I want to get some of the bokeh to cover the dark area in the corner here to give a little bit more light. Now you can see that the bottom of the image, you can see that it's kind of coming above the actual constraint. And so what we'll want to do is continue to transform and resize this layer. So we'll go to edit and then go back to free transform. And let's go ahead and make sure that that entire bokeh layer is covering the photo. And then let's click on the check mark. Now, obviously the layer is covering uniformly the entire photo layer, the layer below it. And we don't want that. Like, I don't want the bokeh to cover the family's heads and their bodies and stuff. So what we can do is take this layer mask button, we'll click on it, and now we have a new blank layer mask. And then what I'm going to do is click on the brush tool from the toolbar, or you can press B on your keyboard. Now, a few things about this brush. First, I want to make sure that the brush is as soft as possible, that the edges are super soft. To do that, click on the brush properties here and make sure that the hardness is down to 0. And that'll make it a super soft brush. Now look at the little icon here. If I make the hardness 100, you see how that the edge of the brush is super hard, but at 0, it's very soft. I'm also going to reduce the opacity of the brush to about maybe 30%. And I'm also going to make sure that black is the foreground color. If you have a blank layer mask that's white, when you paint with black, that will remove or hide whatever is on that active layer and will reveal what's on the layer below. And so you want to also make sure that the layer mask itself is highlighted, not the image layer, but the mask. And you'll know that it has these little lines on the corners here. And all I'm going to do is just paint several strokes on areas that I kind of want to hide some of the bokeh. Now, I don't mind some of it, you know, over the body. That doesn't bother me as much, but I definitely want the faces to be clear. I don't want any of that kind of specular highlight spilling onto the faces. But I love the way it's positioned here, kind of at the top of the tree, and kind of surrounding the little girl and her dad and her mom. So you can see how it just adds a really nice little touch to the photo. The other thing that you can do if this bokeh layer is too strong is you can highlight the layer itself and then reduce the opacity of the layer. So if we brought it to 0, that would hide it. And so you can slowly start to reintroduce it. It doesn't have to be 100%. You know, you can have it just like at 65, 66%. And so that looks really good to me over here, just the way it is. Again, if you want, you can bring that opacity to 100%, but I find that somewhere around 60% looks really good. And then if we want, we can go to the text tool over here and, you know, type in Merry Christmas and reposition it wherever we want. And so I hope this little tutorial gives you some inspiration on how you can take a family holiday photo of your own and just amp it up a bit with a little bit more creativity using multiple images and blending modes and then masking them so that they appear exactly the way you want. And don't forget, if you want to try DeNoise AI for free, head over to topazlabs.com to download a free trial. And I want to wish you the happiest of holidays. See you on the next video.